Irish guy, and Jadon Sancho is hands down one of the most depressing footballers in world football. And I will tell you at the end of this video where I think his next transfer is going to be, and lads, oh, it's not pretty. I'm sorry, but when superstars finally join their next club after a long, drawn-out saga, prices above, they better be worth the wait. Honestly, it's like when KSI eventually fights Jake Paul. Oh, they'd better have an entertaining fight. I don't want to just see the two of them sharing a Big Mac in the ring. And Sancho, while at Borussia Dortmund, it was him. Not Haaland, not Bellingham, but him. Seen as the next elite superstar. Rio Ferdinand was on television telling everybody that this kid from Peckham was the truth. That he was the best young English talent around, and I believe him. Price him up. In his second last season in Germany, he bagged 20 goals and 20 assists. One of the goals came at the new camp in the Champions League. He even scored a hat-trick away at SC Paderborn. When lockdown hit, when we were all forced to just sit inside, talking to Barbie dolls and chewing dog food for breakfast, this kid was the most sought-after young footballer in the world. Dortmund were slapping a £100 million price tag on his face. Yeah, fast forward 3 years, and that same club apparently decided against re-signing this bloke this summer for a cut price £45 million because they believe they already have a better young star, 17-year-old Belgian winger Julian Duranville. So, is that it? Sancho was once called a generational talent, and yet he's already been seamlessly replaced at Dortmund by some child who's not old enough yet to drink a beer, by some kid who probably can't even remember who 50 Cent was. 3 years ago, it would have been unthinkable for Dortmund not to accept Sancho back with open arms, paying 50% less than what they sold him for. It'd be like me telling you now that in the year 2025, Dortmund turned down the chance to re-sign Bellingham for £50 million, instead focusing on some teenage boy born in 2010 who's never heard of Didier Drogba, whose favorite film is Frozen 2, and who still chooses breakfast based on how scary the cartoon animal is on the cereal box. It would mean that Bellingham would have since turned into a big box of elephant poo. And I'm sorry, but Sancho, he must feel devastated. Oh, by the way, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, you absolute legends. Trying to overtake them all. Trying to get to 200k. If you want to be on that journey, then hit that button, you absolute legends. Back into the video. When superstars escape Dortmund, they usually morph into absolute beast mode, playing out of their skin to earn legitimate Ballon d'Or nods. I mean, Haaland quit Dortmund and instantly scored 52 goals, including a hat-trick at the Manchester Derby, and won the treble in his debut season. And Bellingham, instead of getting swallowed by the pressure of Real Madrid, this ex-Birmingham City child has 5 goals in 4 La Liga games. That's, he's never scored more than 8 league goals in a season in his life. So what is going on? When they left Dortmund, it was a bit like they both got bitten by a radioactive spider on the plane, because they have both been even better than anyone thought they were. Sancho, by comparison, has had the end product of an old woman eating porridge on the train. Right now, people are acting like Sancho has just tweeted that he enjoys stealing babies from the orphanage, that he likes to throw puppies in the oven and eat pineapple pizza for tea. The absolute outrage. But Erik has come out and said that Sancho is not on his team because he doesn't train as well as the others. Yeah, Sancho came out and said,
"Please don't believe everything you read. I will not allow people saying things that is completely untrue. I have conducted myself in training very well this week."
I'll stop you there, Jadon. Why would Erik lie? You think you trained well, but this is a man paid millions of pounds a year to assess the work rate and skill of his footballers. And he has assessed that in training you have the work rate of a slug. This isn't just some journalist you're having a go at. It's your actual boss. This is a bit like failing your driving test and not accepting the F.
Oh no, what are you talking about? I drove very well. Now give me the keys to my car.
And in reality, there's a trail of dead toddlers and bloody kittens behind you in the street.
I believe there are other reasons for this matter that I won't go into. I've been a scapegoat for a long time, which isn't fair.
He loves that word scapegoat. He says he feels like he's been one for a long time. Yeah, he doesn't mean 1 or 2 years. No, he's talking about way longer than you think. Because back in November 2019, Sancho felt humiliated and scapegoated by Dortmund after he was subbed off in the first half of their 4-0 loss to Bayern Munich. But he also said this.
"Sometimes I'm late to training and it's things like that I need to work on because I have a sleep problem."
Sleep problem? Does he think he's a Disney princess? Or does he just stay up until 4 AM eating popcorn and playing online Fortnite against angry 12-year-olds from China? Jadon Sancho is a problem child who has trouble keeping his mouth shut. While a budding young Manchester City superstar in their academy, he was in the perfect place to become elite. Can you imagine a version of Sancho that has had 7 years of Pep Guardiola's training ground philosophy ingrained into his brain? City offered him a club record £30,000 a week when he was just 17. Before he'd even made his Man City debut, Guardiola didn't just turn his nose up at this guy as if he was just a piñata filled with soggy mud. No, he wanted to keep Jadon around. But the young, impatient winger refused his monster contract. Things then went sour because Guardiola then dropped him from the club's pre-season tour to the US. And Sancho refused to turn up for training. Yes, a 17-year-old little boy refused to train for the richest club in the world? Is this a joke? He was being unprofessional when he wasn't even a professional yet. What he should have done is just stayed at City, maybe negotiated a 2-year loan deal to Dortmund, and then returned to be Leroy Sané's heir at the Etihad. Sancho has always believed that the world is against him. I mean, remember when Steve Cooper got England to win the Under-17 World Cup? When all the players chose to make it about themselves by celebrating with their names on the front of their shirt? Yes, an act of immature selfishness, yes. But Sancho was not there. He had missed the final because Dortmund had recalled their new signing for a Bundesliga match against Eintracht Frankfurt, where they only chucked him on as a late Salisbury sensitive sweetheart like Sancho. Then, seeing all his mates celebrate a legit World Cup win, whilst he was sitting on an uncomfortable bench beside Isak and Kagawa, he was forced to sacrifice the night of his life for just 6 minutes on a German pitch. Wow. I think that was his super villain arc. That was the moment where it was him losing respect for authority. It was now him against the world. That was his Bane moment in the pit. Take note, Erik. Sancho was desperate to stay in India to win the World Cup with his mates. I genuinely believe that moment where he was forced to leave, big turning point in his life. I think he's had a chip in his shoulder against authority ever since. Honestly, it was a bit unfair. Dortmund allowed him to go and play in the group stage, but he'd have to come home after, which is a bit like being allowed to go to your mate's sleepover party, but your mom comes to pick you up at 9:30. You didn't even get to have a pillow fight. As a young player in a foreign country, you would have expected Sancho to then just lie low in Germany, get his head down and not get into any trouble. Now, he was fined by the German FA for breaking lockdown rules in order to get a haircut. I mean, come on! Again, the guy was getting criticized by his own sporting director. Even his own teammate Emery Chan was telling him to grow up. But when you criticize Sancho in public, he bites back in public. Instead of just pocketing the fine and just apologizing, in a month where people were literally being forced to sit inside eating cat food while Skyping their mum, he came out with 3 words on Twitter.
Absolute joke, DFL.
Bit of a tone-deaf thing to say when they were isolated spinster grannies locked inside their house, having to eat their own cat for breakfast. His Dortmund teammate Manuel Akanji was actually fined for the exact same thing, but the difference is, he kept his mouth shut, and look at him now. He has grown up to have the mentality needed to help Manchester City win the treble. Sancho was dropped for big games at Dortmund, including a Champions League match at Barcelona, because he was repeatedly late to team meetings. I mean, both he and Phil Foden were dropped from the England Under-19 squad after turning up late to a team meeting. Sancho does not care about the rules, but I do feel bad for Sancho. Last Christmas, this bloke spent a few months in the Netherlands during and after the Qatar World Cup. Again, a bit like when his buddies celebrated that World Cup win in India, and he was stuck away from his family and friends in the lonely, cold German hills. Here he was, his mates all out in Qatar, while he was training on his own at amateur team OJC Rosmalen, dribbling around actual mannequins. It looks so sad and lonely. I mean, what am I looking at here? Looks like a scene out of I Am Legend. And that's a very fitting reference because Will Smith also has a bratish, egocentric son called Jadon, but there's more. What we're all choosing to forget is that Sancho missed a penalty for England in a major tournament final. That is big. Not only that, but he was absolutely abused by thousands on social media. Both Bukayo Saka and Marcus Rashford have shown the absolute mental fortitude to come back from the lowest point of their lives to be better than they ever have been, and always pointing to their skull when they score. Sancho has done that once or twice, but really, it must kill him that he's not been able to get to their level. He'd probably have loved nothing more than to also ram the nasty words down Bill from Wigan's throat. But some people just don't recover after that. Some people just don't recover from this trauma. I mean, after the Euro 2020 final, he came out with a huge, long statement on Instagram. 7 big paragraphs long. He was like the epilogue to Harry Potter. First of all, apologizing to his entire nation for letting everybody down. Although, I'm sorry, a penalty miss does not mean you've let everybody down. The fact he even had the bravery to step up and take such a pressure kick when he just spent 2 hours on the bench and had not kicked a ball since the warm-up before the match, to agree to take such a monster penalty when people like Raheem Sterling didn't want to know. For that, I have a huge degree of respect for this kid. But for a sensitive guy like Sancho, this whole nasty ordeal affected him. He joined Manchester United that summer under a cloud. I mean, you know what would have been annoying? At least finally being able to return to the Premier League at a huge monster club, going back to his friends in Manchester. He'd be able to sweep away the nastiness by now becoming the club's marquee signing of the summer. But he couldn't even have that. First of all, he was signed by the club on the same day they unveiled Paul McShane. I mean, can you imagine the insufferable small talk between those two blokes sharing a lasagna at lunch? What exactly does an alleged generational talent have in common with a rubbish ex-Sunderland and Hull centre-back? But Sancho had all the limelight and all the fuss for about 3 weeks, until Man United bought Rafa Varane. And then 2 weeks after that, the most famous footballer in the world. Sancho was probably hoping that the summer of 2021 would be all about him, but no, it's like when Woody finds Buzz Lightyear sitting on his bed. After such a horribly long, drawn-out saga, Sancho was very quickly a Manchester United afterthought, as we know this guy has a problem with authority. He's like the angry kid in school who keeps answering back against the teacher. Even though he's the one who turned up to the lessons late, he's the one who spent half the maths class feeding pencil pairings to the nerd. But lads, when it comes to playing time for Manchester United, Ten Hag is the wrong manager for him. Sancho's best position is playing on the right wing, yes? Well, unfortunately for him, Erik Ten Hag probably has photos of Ian Robin in the bath stapled to his fridge, because he seems to be obsessed with having a left-footed right winger. I mean, make no mistake about it, Anthony is the most predictable winger in the league. The fella just wants to cut onto his left foot and whip it every single time. He's allergic to crossing the ball. Anthony, as a player, seems like an incredibly frustrating hamster. I mean, as a person, let's just say, I hope he likes the color of Getafe's shirt. I worry for Sancho. Where is his next move going to be? I think we all know he's done at Old Trafford. Part of me is terrified for this guy because if they stay up, I just know he's going to be a marquee £30 million buy for Nottingham Forest, reuniting with Cooper, his former England manager, who looks a bit like one of those poor unfortunate souls who had their face ripped off by a chip. Honestly, he looks like he belongs in the film Nope. But right now, I genuinely do believe that next summer, Forest will have both Hudson-Odoi and Sancho on the wings, two former England underage superstars who both courted massive interest from the Bundesliga. I mean, Hudson-Odoi was once a £70 million target for Bayern Munich. I really do believe that because of his own patience, immaturity and hostility, that a man of Sancho's supreme quality is just going to be playing for Nottingham Forest at 24, and that would be awful. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know in the comments what do you think. Let me know in the comments below what do you think. Where's Sancho going to go? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.